John. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, for staying. I know it's me and two other things that stand between you and cocktails, so we'll try and stay within our time limit and get you there right on time. So before I start, I'd like to know how many of you, show of hands, please, how many of you are familiar with the words, the term automatic content recognition, or ACR? Show of hands. Quite a few. Very good. Thank you very much. So for those of you who aren't, very quickly, I'd like to give just a quick explanation of what ACR is. So automatic content recognition means exactly that. There's some technology that recognizes content. The content, in this case, that's playing on television. There's two flavors of ACR. One is watermarking. One is fingerprinting. Watermarking is invasive, which means that you actually have to produce a piece of metadata into the content or the television ad. And fingerprinting is non-invasive. It's kind of like an EKG. You know, you hear the heartbeat, it makes a graph. The heartbeat goes away, you still have the graph. That's fingerprinting. There's no having to produce anything into the content. And then in fingerprinting, there's audio and video. So Alphonso does audio fingerprinting. Other companies do video fingerprinting. There are advantages to both, some disadvantages in particular to video because it conflicts with some other things in a television set. So let's talk about, as we move on now, let's talk about a myth and some challenges. One of the challenges that we can talk about is whenever there's a new technology introduced, from VCRs to DVRs to Netflix and YouTube and others, there's always this outcry that says, oh, well, you know what? That just marks the death of television. That's it. Television is over. It's dead. Linear television. There's no more commercials. Television is dead. VCRs. Nobody's going to watch television the same way. DVRs, everyone's going to skip commercials. I used to work for TiVo. I can tell you people don't skip commercials all that much. So the reality is that television is really not dead. And live TV is still alive and well. In fact, we heard from Colin this morning that people are watching television almost as much as they did last year and the year before. And they're watching a little bit more on some other devices. So that doesn't mean that millennials aren't watching about an hour and a half of things on their iPads, iPhones, or other smart devices. They definitely are. And that, in fact, is the challenge. But other people, millennials, seniors, and Gen Xers, they're all watching TV in about the same amount that they were watching before, and in some cases a little more. The challenge here is really this. This is a graph of app usage throughout the day. This is compiled from millions and millions of app uses by a company called Flurry. And you can see exactly where app usage really peaks, in that shaded area between about 5:30 and about 9:30 in the evening. Now, if you look kind of at the end in that big green section there is a little peak right at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's Donald Trump tweeting. But aside from that, you can see what's going on here. And this is really the challenge, right? While people are watching television during prime time, they're doing these other things. They're doing emails. They're playing games. They're shopping. And this is really the big challenge, not only for advertisers, but for content owners. Excuse me. So the reason it's a challenge is that when there's nothing else in the room and you're just watching television, your recall is about 40% for brands. When you're doing something else, watching other content on another device, your brand recall is 4%. So this is really what the challenge is. And how can we change that? There is some technology that we can use. Television is really not broken, but we can definitely see the cracks. And so the way to solve this is to use something that can bridge the gap. How can we connect what people are doing on apps with what they're doing and watching on television? That's the challenge, and that's the solution is a technology called automatic content recognition. So it's very simple. ACR lives on multiple devices, whether it's smart TVs, smartphones, set-top boxes, gaming devices, all kinds of devices. The device then is able to detect what is being viewed on television, whether it's ads or programming. We then can create a one-to-one TV segment using that information, and we're able to actually retarget a advertiser's ad or somebody who wants to find a viewer who's watching certain content back to that mobile device. So while they're shopping, while they're browsing, while they're playing a game, the next time that app, while they're watching or doing that during watching television, the next time that app calls for an ad, we're going to be able to retarget the client's ad back to that device. Or we can also do something called conquesting. So if a client says, well, this is my competitor's ad, whenever you see my competitor's ad, I want you to retarget my ad back to that mobile device. We can do that. We can also find what an audience that the advertiser is looking for. For instance, an advertiser would like to reach an audience that watches Game of Thrones. Well, clearly, you can't advertise in Game of Thrones. There's no advertising there. But we can identify who has watched Game of Thrones and target ads to those mobile devices for people who have watched that content. So here's the other challenge. You know, this old adage by John Wanamaker. I know that half my money for advertising is wasted. I just don't know which half. Now we can solve this issue. Because using real-time, near real-time television viewing data and matching it up with third-party data such as location information, purchase information, credit card information, we can now identify in almost real time people who have watched an ad, people who are then driven to a store by that ad, people who have made a purchase, and now we can hook together. You saw the ad, you went to the store, you made a purchase, and that's how effective your campaign is. Now, we have done hundreds and hundreds of campaigns like this, and in almost every instance, we're seeing brand lift of more than 20%, or some kind of lift, whether it's purchase lift or store visits. It's very, very effective. Advertisers love it. Programmers love it because now they can understand when we run a promo for a program, does it actually drive viewership? We can tell that. And so instead of waiting weeks, sometimes months for these reports, we can actually do this in near real time. Using our Alphonso Insights, which is available, a little commercial here, insights.alphonso.tv if you'd like to look it up. You can actually go there and see all the ads that are airing in the United States at this moment. You can see all of the relevant copy for every advertiser. You can see where it's aired by have a ranking by network, have a ranking by show, and you could even pull an almost instant report on closed-loop attribution. So if you were, let's say, there's a drugstore in the United States called CVS, and you wanted to see which 3 creatives have driven store visits, you can actually go to CVS, pick 3 creatives, pick a time period that you wanted to see for store visits, click, and then your report will be generated in about 10 minutes or less. So that is available today, and it's a very valuable piece of information for both advertisers and programmers. So what about this other challenge? There are in the United States some 3,000 channels. I think Roku has about 2,500 channels that you can pick from. So what about, how do you figure out what you want to watch? The latest statistics that we saw just recently from Ericsson is that in the US, a person spends about 23 minutes a day searching for the content that they want to watch. In an average lifetime, that's about a year of your life. I don't think anyone really wants to spend a year of your life searching for content. So how can we solve this issue? What can we do to make that easier, make that better? ACR, because we're getting viewership information from not only that individual, but across a whole community, and again, we have 40 million devices that are reporting to us, we can actually give you smart recommendations. And we could do it in a number of different ways. First, we can do it in a social way. We can tell you, for instance, you're watching a football match, and all of a sudden we see on our side that a group of people, a large group of people, are tuning to a news station. Well, there's a major news story there, so we might pop up a recommendation that says, excuse me, you might want to turn to the news station, there's something happening there. So that's a social example. We can do it by viewer profile. Over time, we understand that this viewer watches a lot of certain kinds of programs, and we're going to say you're watching a lot of sports, you're watching a lot of science fiction, you're watching a lot of dramas at certain times of the day. Maybe you'd like to watch this because that's what you've been watching before. So we can make a personalized recommendation. Or we can do it in a program sort of way. You watch a lot of Star Trek. All the people who watch a lot of Star Trek, they also watch a lot of Battlestar Galactica, so, which is appearing on such and such a channel. So we have at least 3 ways, and many others that people can think of making personalized recommendations that'll make it a lot easier for people to find the content that they're searching for. So how do you make that all work? What is that magic behind making those, finding those solutions to those challenges? It's ACR. And this is what Alphonso has today. This is working today in the United States. Today we cover over 200 cable and broadcast networks. We index all ads and all programming. So on the server side, we have fingerprinted all ads and all programming. Our back end has machine learning so that we don't have to pre-ingest an ad. The minute a new ad shows up, our system identifies that that metadata is not in our system, and our system will then index that metadata using a combination of optical character recognition, audio recognition, video ACR, and we'll look at the data, say, this seems to be a Ford ad, it mentions leasing, and then it will attach that data to the ad. And at that point, the ad then becomes part of our database. So we index all ads and all programming. So we have actually that number 10,000. That's actually double now, over 20,000 TV ads and programs that are in the system at any one moment in time. And as I said, we have 40 million active unique devices reporting to us. So keep in mind that Nielsen just announced today that they're adding 15,000 new meters to 140 markets in order to measure television ratings. So think about that. That's 15,000 meters in 140 markets that's going to measure television ratings. There are 215 television markets in the United States. So that adds to the 20,000 that they already have. So now they have, let's be generous, 40,000 meters measuring 300 million people watching television. So what's better, 40 million or 40,000? So we have real-time television data happening instantly. So as I said, if you go to insights.alphonso.tv, you can actually see what is being viewed at any one time around the United States and actually measure the viewership against that. So all of this on the left is what's in the back end, what's on TV, we identify that, what are they watching, how did the ad perform, and that then drives all of these cloud services, including audience retargeting, TV insights and attribution, and TV recommendations. And that's it. It's as simple as that. It's available today. We'll be rolling out in Europe starting the end of this year, and we'd love to talk to you. If you need any more information, I'll be here the rest of today and all of tomorrow, and I'd love to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'll turn to the audience for questions in just a moment. So, get your questions ready, please. I've got a question for you, though. 40 million unique devices. That's quite an incredible number.
Yes.
I mean, even given that I guess not all of them are active all the time, how on earth did these app makers persuade their consumers to turn on the microphone? That's what I want to know.
So we started actually as a mobile company. And so our focus was in driving our technology to mobile. And we work with literally thousands of apps. We have a deal with them where they receive an incentive from us, and they in turn give their users an incentive. So we are in gaming apps, we're in social apps, we're in a number of different types of apps, and in every case, they give, in some cases, points. They'll give some added incentive to the user to agree. By the way, we have a double opt-in, single opt-out requirement for all of our partners. So they must tell the user that we are collecting the data, that they will be receiving personalized advertising and marketing and other information, and they must agree to it the first time and say yes. And then we ask them again, do you understand what we're doing and why? And they must say yes again. After they say yes, then our ACR is turned on. At any point in time, the user has the ability to go to their control area, their settings area, and turn that off. And we also have on the Alphonso website what's known as Do Not Track, where the user can put in their IDFA, their device information, and we will wipe out all history of any information that we have in our system. So we're very transparent. We understand that there are privacy laws, and we're more than compliant with all of them.
And these apps, are they running in the background the whole time, or is it just actually capturing the audio whilst they're using the game or whatever?
There's a combination.
Yeah.
There are some that are press to listen, kind of a Shazam-like experience. Some of them are more of a Google Now or a Siri experience where the microphone is always on.
I see. So there's a slight skew in the kind of experience of when the
There are some.
is on.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a difference.
Yeah.
But by and large, we have millions and millions of devices reporting every day.
Yeah. Very impressive numbers. Do we have any questions in the audience?
Anybody?
Does nobody want to know who Alphonso is? Who is Alphonso?
So I'd love to say that he's the pizza guy who delivered pizza to the founders, but that's not the case. Anybody who I think lives in or has been to Southeast Asia or India, when they hear Alphonso, they might think, what do you think of, sir? You're raising your hand.
Retargeting. Sorry.
Oh, you have a question. Okay. Okay.
Please say.
By the way,
can you please
Alphonso is
introduce
about the
yourself?
most delicious mango that you can ever have. And of course, you've heard A is for Apple. We want it to be A is for Alphonso. So I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
Please introduce yourself, sorry.
Yes, I'm Colin Dixon with Endscreen Media. One of the problems we talked about this morning was attribution. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem that TV has. It's very difficult to get attribution. Strikes me that your service can actually help a lot with that. Have you thought about applying it to that problem?
That is exactly what we do. So if you go to, again, insights.alphonso.tv, you can go in, find a client, an advertiser that you'd like some information on, and pull all of their creatives up, figure which creatives you'd like to see have driven, let's say, store visits, pick those, and you'll be able to pull a report about location attribution. So we have location attribution, purchase attribution, tune-in attribution. All of those things can be done with the kind of data that we have, absolutely. And we do that today. Yes, ma'am, you had, did you have a question? No? Okay.
It's Fran Cassidy, and you were mentioning before about how advertisers can correctly attribute the copy that's working and the advertising that's working. Is that on a very short-term basis, though? I mean, given that clearly brands are built over a long time, is your analysis then just looking at a short-term effectiveness?
Well, it's
level?
It's defined somewhat by the client. So, for instance, an auto ad, you might want to take a look at someone who's been exposed to the ad 3 or 4 times or more over a period of X, let's say a month, and then see within the next 6 months, did any of those people actually go to the dealership, and did any of those people who went to the dealership, did they actually buy a car? So it's defined somewhat by the advertiser. They know what their ideal customer is and what their ideal customer's habits are. We want to see if we can confirm that or prove them wrong. Maybe you had it all wrong. They were actually visiting the dealership right away, doing a test drive, and buying a car within the month. That's something that...
I just think it might be as interesting to look at that data over a 3 or 4 year period as well.
It would be, absolutely, yeah. We don't have that history yet, but we will.
Okay.
There was somebody up here, was there? No?
Well, I'd like to say thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Round of applause, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much.